Ladies and gentlemen, Pecha Kucha is an innovation, and Nirmala Sitharaman's ministry is all about innovations. That's a new age concept, a new age presentation by a new age minister. Can we have a round of applause for Nirmala Sitharaman, who tried her best to fit into the concept of Pecha Kucha. Really made an effort. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much, Ms. Sitharaman. Our next speaker at the Ideas for India session is a chartered accountant who was responsible for the BJP's finances in the 2014 Assembly and General Elections. He's now working on fixing the finances of India's power companies. He promises to deliver electricity to every Indian in the next 3 years. He says that the phrase power cut will be eliminated from India's lexicon by 2019. That's also when general elections happen, and he and his party will be up for elections. Join me in welcoming to the India Today Conclave the Power, Coal and Renewable Energy Minister in the Modi government, Piyush Goyal.
My compliments to Mr. Arun Puri, Kali. I think all of you know Kali is a bud, and we have in her a budding star and media magnate. Of course, Arun will have to leave his job for that to happen. And all the editorial and management team of India Today. I was just running through the program, an outstanding program you've put together. Well, anyway, after all the glitz and glamour and color that you saw on screen just now, let's get down to black and white. Anyway, my picture is also black and white there. Black for the coal, white for the impact of transparency on the entire sector. Without much ado, let's shoot straight into my pecha kucha offering of whatever was bacha kucha of this very important sector, whatever I inherited, a much maligned written off sector over the years. We all are aware power can only be delivered if the weakest link in the chain is addressed. And there we've just tried to put out the entire chain on the power sector, and each one of them has equal importance. In the next slide, we are trying to talk about what we inherited, the legacy of the whole system. We had 30 crore people living in darkness. That's nearly 5 or 6 crore families. 18,452 villages, 68 years after independence, had not even received electricity, not even access to electricity. Of course, public memory is very short. When in September 2014, 204 coal blocks got cancelled, and almost most plants had no coal in their plants. 2/3 of the plants were starving of coal. We had screaming headlines in India Today writing about how India could get down back into those dark old ages, power cuts and power going off even in Mumbai and Delhi, just like the 2012 grid collapse. Those screaming headlines are the legacy that we inherited. Of course, even when we look at environment and clean energy, hardly 1% of India's potential, so about 2,500 megawatt of solar power in the country. And the target at that point of time was 20,000 megawatts by 2022 in the next 7 years. Of course, we scaled it up to 100,000 by 2022. So we are looking at 40 times growth only in the solar sector in a short span of 7 years. Of course, a country which was perpetually short of power in South India, very large part of India having to buy power at humongous prices, as high as 20 cents, 25 cents a unit. It was a situation where a state like Rajasthan, a neighboring state which barely consumes 5% of India's power, was incurring losses as high as $8 billion in a short span of 5 years. We had a number of significant challenges, but the way forward for us was based on principles, actionable agenda items, and a glass of water, and very, very clear focus on how we are going to systematically sort it out. All our work was based on certain principles. No individual file has been put up to me in 1.5 or 2 years. Every action is based on a root cause analysis, see what needs to be done on policy, focus on how we can take decisions and change the old narrative of filibustering, work on high levels of integrity and let the rule of law prevail, create a very predictable, stable, and simple regulatory mechanism to get the sector right. Of course, that involved prioritizing our work, focusing on what's most important. I got the benefit of being an investment banker, so I could bring in some financing models which were very different from the typical mindset of the government. In a simple example, earlier they used to buy LED bulbs paying for the bulb over 5 years. I mean, imagine somebody trusting the government of India with their money for 5 years. We changed all of that. 30th day, bank account receives an RTGS transfer of whatever you supply to the government, changes the rules of the game, and all of this success is only possible if you have timelines and allocated responsibility, focus, razor-sharp focus of the entire team on execution. I'll just try to highlight some of these principles because I believe the ultimate objective can only be met if we work through some very, very strong commandments. And in that, the first, of course, is our focus on taking everybody along. Uday, the Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana, is probably the most comprehensive power sector reform in the critical distribution sector India has ever seen. And in that sense, our focus was that this should not be a program that the central government foists on the people. It's a bottom-up approach. We took all stakeholders together. A true living example of Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi's dream of collaborative and cooperative federalism working at its best, where a scheme like Uday, which was voluntary, states had the option to choose whether to sign up or no, is now covering nearly 75-80% of India. States are making legally binding commitments of what they will do. Central government is making a commitment, and I'm confident by 2019, every state discom will make profits, get into the black. Decisive leadership, which Prime Minister Modi is often criticized for, and India Today has headlines about maybe tolerance, intolerance, and whatnot that you hear. He's intolerant about underperformers. He's intolerant about failure. What he needs is clear outcomes, and he's decisive when he's setting very aggressive goals for all of us, and that percolates down into the system. And I'll just share one small insight about his decisive leadership, where he talked about a decision which could have caused a potential loss to one of my public sector undertakings, but was in the interest of the people of the country. And he asked me, Piyush, till when are we in India going to bother about the profit and loss of one company? Has anybody ever worried or thought about the profit and loss of India? And that, to my mind, is a true example of decisive leadership. Think for India first. I have 6 speaking engagements. This is only the second of the day. Focus on outcomes. Until we know where the road leads to and what we are working towards achieving, we're not going to be able to get the kind of results we want. And you'll find that all our actions, because of the high level of transparency, take the solar bidding, for example. It's brought down the price of solar power by 40% in 18 months. LED bulbs, India has increased its share in the world trade from 0.1% to 12% in about a year and a half. That's the level and scale at which we're trying to work on getting outcomes. And economies of scale, with transparent bidding, plug-and-play concept, innovating financing, and ultimately bringing in technology into the system can give us significant outcomes. That's the lesson that we've learned. That's what we are working on. Ultimately, that's what they taught us at business school. Let's focus on the goals and work towards those goals systematically. As I mentioned earlier, the root cause analysis has helped us focus on the areas which needed our attention, but also focus on it in a sustainable way so we find permanent solutions. I'm very confident that this country will move from scarcity to surpluses by 2018, 2019. In fact, in a way, we already have surplus coal, surplus power, a lot of surpluses today which I'm grappling with. I mentioned about how the rule of law and transparency has had a significant impact in reducing the costs of government's operation. Our LED program and the auction of coal mines are two of the most talked about programs in this sector. Energy efficiency has been a serious priority of this government. In fact, it has more potential than any other program. Just the LED program, once again, I'll just highlight the savings that it can lead to. It can lead to a $6.5 billion saving and a reduction of 80 million tons of carbon dioxide every year for the people of India. $6.5 billion every year. Of course, a focus on time-bound execution is extremely important for us, and all our programs are with very, very strict timelines. We resolve issues across the table, often on the phone. Mr. Prabhu and I finalized a $6 billion investment in the railway sector across on the phone just before his railway budget, which the power sector will do to energize all the balanced railway tracks in the next 3.5 years. Innovative financing, I just mentioned, has been my effort to bring in my own personal knowledge into the sector. Technology focus has helped us reach our work to the people of India. The Ujala dashboard tells us how many LED bulbs are being sold. In fact, I'm trying to keep pace. This is a figure at 7:28 a.m.
Piyush.
Right now it is 79,324,000 as we speak. And if one was to look at the monitoring on the next slide after this, even our rural electrification is monitored minute to minute, time-bound way. If you'll see the bottom right-hand side, it shows in the last 3 weeks how many villages across the country, and these are the most remote and difficult villages, 68 years after independence, seeing power for the first time. We did 305 in the week ended 28th February, 314 6th of March, 323 13th March, and 182 villages in the first 3 days of this week. And to give you a flavor, 1270 of them are in Uttar Pradesh, 1709 in Bihar, 823 in Assam, 1228 in Odisha, and 696 in Jharkhand. I said about all the other states, otherwise he would say I'm talking only about Assam, which is getting into elections. Well, this gives you a bird's eye view of how the electricity is reaching the villages. The black spots are the ones where we still have to get electricity. The brown is where we have already reached electricity. I want all of you to hold us accountable to this commitment that Power for All 2019, 3 years ahead of the original target of 2022 that Honorable Prime Minister had articulated, is doable. We stand committed to doing it and is going to happen. Thank you.
Incident, a promising young kabaddi player was shot dead on the streets of Rohtak in Haryana. What's truly alarming is that the fatal shooting was caught on camera on Tuesday afternoon. Kabaddi player Sukhwinder Singh
Of living a quiet, happy, boring life, so I decided to get married, and my wife says welcome to hell, boy. But the episode ain't that bad. It's just about all right, above average.